Well, hello there. There's a giant crab behind me. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're doing absolutely peachy keen fantastic. And I hope that you're all feeling the blessings of God today. Um, Today I want to talk a little bit about being patient with people. I think it's an important thing to talk about. Sometimes you have to be patient with crab too, because sometimes crab will be jab. Like this. Oops. There we go. Ooh. Okay, you have a lot of health, and I don't really feel like dealing with you right now. Anyway, sometimes you really got to be patient with people, and I understand it can be difficult. Some people are really and truly just like by their nature kind of not the most fun uh, to deal with. Oh my goodness, I had to run away from crab for a second. Give me a second here. Okay, I think the crab is gone, and I may or may not have had an incident, but it's fine. Anyway, sometimes you just really got to try and be patient with people. I know it can be difficult. Sometimes it feels like certain people are almost like fighting you, or like it almost feels like sometimes people are really stubborn, or like they have their beliefs about things that are like maybe fundamentally opposed to things you believe, and maybe it's kind of hard to reconcile the two. Sometimes, like you'll be at work or at a social gathering, and someone will just really want to talk to you about something that you just don't want to talk to them about, right? Like sometimes it's just like, hey man, I don't really feel like talking about politics right now, and then someone's just like, it's like insistent on it. They just want you to just talk about it. Or maybe it's something like, hey man, you and I believe different things. Maybe we should just not worry about it and just have a nice time, like at a party or something like that. And like I said, some people will really try to push. But what you got to understand is that everybody has their beliefs for a reason, and people most of the time aren't just trying to upset you. Some people are. Some people are, kind of trolls and things like that. But most people, oh my goodness, oh that was close. Uh, some people are, kind of like that. But even then, you gotta have patience with people. Usually, people do that sort of thing for a reason, and we could pretend that it's all just negativity, and sometimes it really is just general negativity. But a lot of times, people will do those sorts of things because they don't feel right on the inside and they're trying to correct it. Some people think that you can kind of correct not feeling good by making other people feel bad. There's like certain sadists out there and things like that who are just like, oh hey, I can just make you feel bad, and because you gave me a reaction, it gives me what I want. That's also one of the reasons why one of the common rules of the internet is don't feed the trolls. If someone is deliberately being bad, or if they're deliberately trying to cause an issue, it's generally a good idea to not fuel them and to not just be like, oh yes, I will continue to talk back to them. Sometimes people do need a bit of help. Sometimes I like I have a big arrow. Sometimes people really do need you to just be patient with them and really like try to really bear with them. Something that's important is to try and understand when it's intentionally being bothersome versus when the person is just, some people are just like legitimately kind of confused and don't really know like what they're doing. Some people have a little bit of autistic tendencies. Well, and we shouldn't just blame it on autism, but that can be a thing. Sometimes people have a really hard time understanding, like, are empathizing with other people, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It's not something we should encourage, but at the same time, you really got to understand that everybody is kind of their own like worst enemy in a lot of ways. People won't understand like why they have a certain problem, right? And they'll just like react. Like what usually happens with a lot of people is that they're going to go through and they're going to react to stimuli, and they're not going to stop and try to control the reactions to stimuli. They're just going to react, right? They're just going to do whatever feels the easiest and most natural in a given moment, rather than like a planned out action that might serve them better. And you know, a lot of people, they just react to whatever is given to them. They don't even think about it. They just, okay, I have an emotional response. This is my emotional response, and because I have this emotional response, I need to respond, you know, this way or whatever. There's a lot of folks out there like that who will just sort of, you know, because they just respond to whatever comes along, they'll just do dumb things. I you know, I've met people who would get sad and they know that, you know, eating like chocolate or something will make them feel better. And then what happens is they start just eating chocolate all the time because they start feeling bad all the time. Sometimes they're depressed. Although usually in like real hardcore medical depression, what tends to happen is that people kind of stop eating. Do I not have any? I guess I don't have any stone keys. But you know, I'm not a medical doctor. Don't take that as advice or blah 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 blah. But you know, the people will do different things and they'll respond differently. Like sometimes people just get mad. Like people will be driving and they'll just get mad. They'll just like someone will cut them off or something. Maybe someone got a little bit too close to their car, or maybe they weren't paying enough attention while driving. Now for the rest of the day they're just so mad about it. And like some people will revisit it time and again. They'll just keep coming back to it, be like, I can't believe this person. And you know, like usually it's nonsense, and the problem just becomes like, well, okay, well look, now that you've explained what bothered you, like, yeah, maybe I'll agree with you or maybe I won't. But sometimes if you just let things eat up and eat away at you forever, it just, you know, just like if you just keep going back to that thought and allowing that thought to like control the way you're feeling and doing that sort of thing, it's just going to be bad for you, man. Like, you know, anger is something that you can't just keep in your body forever because it is poison. But there's the other misconception, which is, you know, you can't really just vent it all away. A lot of people will tell you, oh, you need to vent. It's like, well, in truth, venting will actually has this whole thing where it can make things stick with you more, because then it can also provide validation for a feeling that oh, they're feeding them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But, you know, it can provide validation for a feeling that is in truth something that you don't need to foster. So sometimes it's just not really worth it, my guy. But, you know, it's really important to know that sometimes it really is just okay to just let feelings go. But this all also goes back to the whole patience thing, in that sometimes, you know, you'll get annoyed with somebody, but you just got to realize everybody's kind of just doing what they're doing. Very few people actually think about what they're doing. They just kind of respond to stimulus. They know that they want something, so they go for it. They go, okay, well, I want someone to pay attention to me, so I'm going to go talk to this person. And maybe they don't realize that, hey, sometimes you just don't vibe with somebody, you know? Like, and that's not necessarily to say that you have to hate them, but sometimes you just don't vibe with somebody. Sometimes it's just like, hey, man, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm just not really as into whatever you're into. Or it's like you want to listen for a little bit and be polite, and you're trying to be patient with somebody, but it gets some people, it's like that old saying, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. So you gotta kind of like remember and try to understand like what people are actually going through and what they're feeling and things like that. And so, sometimes it can be very difficult. Sometimes, you know, like when you gotta empathize with somebody, I think I know which one I missed. But sometimes when you gotta empathize with somebody, it can be really hard just because they're in such a different situation or they approach things so differently. But, you know, like, you should always be trying to see that little bit of common ground and understand that, hey, for everybody you gotta put up with, don't forget that people are putting up with you. You're not perfect, and you will occasionally do things that are just, like, annoying to other people. I have this tendency, because I'm so into Warhammer, to sometimes just, like, well, if I can read the person's facial expressions, I won't just do it if they're really not into it. But sometimes I'll just babble about Warhammer for really extended periods of time, and, you know, if my friends is not into it and they tell me, you know, I'll be like, okay, yeah, no, I'll stop. But if they don't tell me and I don't pick up that they're not interested in something, which usually I feel like I'm pretty decent at picking up on that sort of thing. But, oh, excuse me, little deer. But you know, like everybody has their moments, and we shouldn't. Oh lordy. Yeah, with my low health here, basically, one hit from anything strong is enough to where am I missing? Is enough to kind of put me way down in terms of health. But you know, everybody puts up with each other, and don't think that you're perfect and that, you know, you're putting up with all these people and nobody has to put up with you. Sometimes, if you really feel like you're just having a time where you just have to put up with everybody, you should remember that like I said, sometimes you do things that are annoying other people, but they don't just immediately get super mad at you. Sometimes, you know, if you start to feel like you're putting up with a lot of people, maybe you'll start to feel like people aren't like respecting you or respecting your time. As an example. Uh-oh. But, you know, it's important to remember that, you know, we all have to put up with each other and we should all be patient with one another. And that we shouldn't strive to be like, oh man, fuck that guy over there because they're annoying or anything like that. And yes, sometimes people are annoying. And sometimes you're gonna just have to be like, hey, look, I'll be friendly to you, I'll be nice to you, but we're not friends. Sometimes you just gotta put up these boundaries and just be like, hey, look, I'm sorry. I want to help you. I want to be patient with you, but like, sometimes it's just like there's not a vibe, or sometimes it's just like, you know, not everybody is for everybody, you know? But yeah, do your best to be patient to one another. Do your best to remember and empathize that everybody has their own little foibles and silly things about themselves. Not everybody is perfect, and of course we're not perfect, and we'll make mistakes sometimes too. Just always remember that you got to put up with people and people got to put up with you, and that it's good to foster kindness and patience rather than, you know, delving into anger and clinging onto that anger. Okay? Anyway, I hope that you all enjoyed this little talk, and I hope that you can remember to try and be patient with other people. And I'll probably do some stuff later on as to how to get patient, like some techniques and stuff. For right now, this is where we'll call it. I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I hope that you know that I love you and God loves you, and bye-bye, love you, bye.